Well, this is a tremendous victory for the Ukrainians, and it's a victory that I think that they could turn into a cascading series of defeats of Russian forces. This is the encirclement of Lyman and the Russian forces pulling back. And I think, Margaret, what we might be at here is really at the precipice of really the collapse of the Russian army in Ukraine, a moral collapse. And I think they must really be at a breaking point if you look at just the numbers of casualties, the vast area that they're trying to defend. And now, of course, Russia is trying to mobilize conscripts and send them to the front untrained. And I think it's very important to also understand that these forces that are in full retreat now out of Lyman were really the first round of mobilization. Remember when Putin was trying to recruit more and more people with paying about 3 times the average wages to get so-called volunteers to go forward? Those forces were hastily trained, thrown into that front. kind of long-range capabilities. But I think what you're seeing is that Russia is really getting desperate, right, with not only this action to try to interdict the supply routes, but also, with this kind of, trying to lay the groundwork for maybe the use of chemical weapons, which is concerning. But then also, Putin rattling his nuclear saber. So this is, I think, a real sign of weakness. I mean, I think Russia and Putin in particular is in real trouble. Well, Gail, they already have tremendous support from China. Remember, right before the Olympics, they both called each other their BFFs, really. That there were no limits to their partnership.
Yes.
Exactly. And what China's been doing is providing cover for Russia's mass murder of innocent civilians. Spouting the same narrative that this isn't really a war, calling it a special military operation, also supporting these kind of false claims of military biolabs in Ukraine. So China, I think this ought to be hung around China's neck, this horrible assault on Ukraine. And I think it's a tremendous moment, Gail, for the free world, I think, to shift the balance back in favor of the free world and away from these two authoritarian dictatorships. I just don't think it's good practice to take things off the table. Why don't we just stop doing that, right? Stop talking about what we're not going to do. Create some dilemmas, for Putin. I think for too long, we made it too easy for him. We vacated the Black Sea. We withdrew everybody from Ukraine. We said all the things we're not going to do. And, in retrospect, it seems kind of almost that we, in some ways, green-lighted the invasion with some of these actions. Now, I think the administration has done a very good job in galvanizing, the free world against this Russian aggression. So now it's time to take advantage of it. And I think it's time just to stop talking about what we're not going to do. Well, we need to extend, I think, the economic sanctions to China. And we need to accelerate that anyway, right? Because this is a country that is committing slow genocide of the Uyghur population. This is a country where the Chinese companies have to literally act as an arm of the Chinese party as it continues to extend and tighten its exclusive grip on power, to extinguish human freedom in China, and to continue to be aggressive in the South China Sea and against Taiwan and on the Himalayan frontier with India. So I think step A is, hey, why don't we just stop underwriting our own demise with China? Why don't we restrict, some of the financial flows that go into China that are the scaffolding that hold up their statist, mercantilist economic model, one that they weaponize against us? So I think there are a lot of things we can do to shore up supply chains. And, hey, how about it like a sensible energy policy as well that recognizes the tremendous potential that the United States has to not only satisfy our needs, but also to break some of the dependence that Russia has, and to demonstrate to China that, hey, China cannot pursue its interests in this partnership with Russia. But I'll tell you, there's a lot we can do in terms of sensible long-term policies. And I think this ought to be a wake-up call, right? It was Germany's and Europe's dependence on Russian oil and gas that at the beginning muted our response. Hey, let's start managing these economic dependencies on China. And hey, also recognize it's China that wants to decouple on its own terms. This is Xi Jinping's idea of this dual circulation economy.